All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Facebook Live Friday from St. Johns Northwestern. My name is Eric Wozniak, and I am the headmaster at St. Johns Northwestern. I'm going to be talking to you today about the academy as a whole, St. Johns Northwestern, and the military academy experience and the leadership academy experience. Hopefully, you had a chance to watch some of the other Facebook Live shows that we've had or talks that we've had from our academic dean and our athletic director and our director of spiritual and character development, our admissions director, and our commandant of cadets, and also a couple of parents who are associated with the academy. Um, there's a lot of information in there, and I hope to share a little bit more, but I'm going to try to do two things today. I really want to give you a big picture of what St. John's Northwestern is all about. And then I want to, focus on the Leadership Academy a little bit because it's going to be new and there are a lot of questions. And, you know, it you need to decide for yourself whether, as a student coming in, a prospective student, what experience are you looking for here? Are you looking for the military academy experience, or are you looking for the leadership academy experience? And I'm going to try to give you hopefully a good picture so at least you can start to get a feel for that. And then what I would really encourage, and I'll remind you of this at the end, is that you reach out to our admissions team and begin that conversation with them. What kind of experience are you looking for, and how can St. John's Northwestern be a part of that? Okay. So just to start out, I just want to introduce myself again. My name is Eric Wozniak. I'm the headmaster of St. John's Northwestern. I've been here for a long time. I've been here for, this is my 24th year at the academy. I've been a teacher, I've been a coach, I've been a technology director, I've been the academic dean, and now I'm the headmaster. And you may have a question, what is a headmaster? So real briefly, the headmaster is in charge of the day-to-day running of the school, of the academy. So my team consists of the academic dean, the athletic director, the director of spiritual and character development, and the commandant of cadets for the military academy. We have a new role coming on board called the dean of students, who will be basically for the leadership academy what the commandant is for the military academy. And actually, those two folks, the commandant and the dean of students, are going to be working hand in hand as a team to craft and guide the whole student life experience here at the academy to make sure that the leadership academy and the military academy experience are synergized, working hand in hand together to complete the full experience of the academy. Okay, so that's a little bit about me and a little bit about my role. Let me talk about St. John's Northwestern a little bit. And full disclaimer, I am looking at some notes here. There's a lot of information and I want to make sure I hit everything. So I apologize if I'm looking down every once in a while. I'll try to minimize that, but I just want to hit everything. First and foremost, St. John's Northwestern is a school, right? We are an educational institution. So academics, our core pillar of academics, we're a grades 7 through 12 educational institution. We focus on a college prep, liberal arts, humanities, math, science, languages, really a broad education that's focused on developing the whole person. We help kids grow into well-rounded adults with a very strong emphasis on character development and leadership. We do this by keeping class sizes very low, and we have a typically about a 1 to 12 to 1 to 15 teacher student ratio. We don't like to go above 15 students per class. So many of our classes are quite smaller than that if we can manage it. The reason for this is we have a very strong belief that relationships between the teacher and the student, and between student and student, the social aspects of learning, are really important for adolescent development and for education. So keeping those class sizes small, making sure our teachers have the capacity to build relationships with the students, know who they are, understand them, and vice versa, give the students the discipline to make those strong connections with adults and as mentors. That's really a cornerstone of what we do in the classroom. And our teachers are experts at that. They're very proficient at it. They care very deeply about the students, and they get to know each and every one of them. So as far as education and academics is concerned, that's in a nutshell kind of what we're doing there. Of course, you heard from the academic dean, and if you haven't seen that, Stephanie Eiler's presentation, I would strongly recommend you go and listen to her talk about the details of academics. But that's really the core of what we do there. Let me talk about athletics a little bit. Athletics, of course, is an important part of all young people's lives. Not only is it fun and engaging, and it's a personal challenge, to build expertise in a sport and to pursue a passion for sports. It's also presents itself with a number of opportunities for lessons of leadership and opportunities to lead. The idea of personal discipline and that potential of getting better at something and accomplishing something. Also, the working as a team and being part of something bigger than yourself, having that responsibility and accountability to another group of people, and that sense of accomplishment when a team does achieve a goal together and collaboratively. That's really what athletics is about here at St. Johns Northwestern. And again, I would encourage you to watch Mike Fink's presentation on the athletic program for a lot of the details there. Next pillar I'll talk about very briefly is the idea of spiritual and character development. Our pastor, Paul Jeffries, spoke about the spiritual and character development program. I'll say this. Character is the cornerstone of what we do at St. Johns Northwestern. We are really, and you'll hear about that in a minute when I talk about leadership. Character is so critical to leadership and so critical to human development. The spiritual end of it, as you know that we're an Episcopal-based school, we are open to all faith and denominations. We don't proclaim to change anyone's opinion about anything. We welcome all faiths and all beliefs, but we do focus on values that are typically associated with Christian-based faiths. But I would argue that they're also a little bit more universal than that. And if you look at many non-Christian beliefs, the same character traits that we focus on, things like respect, responsibility and accountability, integrity, selfless service, compassion, forgiveness, human dignity, and human potential. Those are all character traits and values and principles that we shape our spiritual and character development pillar on. The spiritual nature of it, having that connection to something bigger than ourselves is incredibly important in a young person's life. And by exposing them and challenging them to ask questions about spirituality and engage in that conversation, that's really what we're trying to do along with the spiritual and character development pillar. Not to necessarily change anybody's opinion, but we all know that adolescent time, when you're a teenager growing up, you have a lot of questions. You're trying to figure out who you're going to be as an adult. And we help students do that in a very intentional way. It doesn't happen just by accident. So I hope that gives you another perspective of how our spiritual and character development pillar fits into the larger scheme of things. Now let me transition a little bit to the idea of leadership. Okay, we are a leadership academy, both in the military academy and in what we're going to be calling the leadership academy. Leadership is a really big word. People have all kinds. If you look up leadership on the internet, there's 100+ different definitions of it. The idea that we take is we look at this idea of leading, we call it leading from the inside out. This comes from the belief that leadership is a reflection of your character. In order to be a high quality leader or to exhibit high quality leadership, you have to work from the inside first. And you have to affect changes you have to take a look at your beliefs, your worldview, and how you can change from the inside and then have that come out through your leadership. So a lot of times I'll use the phrase leading from the inside out. And that's kind of what I mean. That idea that true high quality leadership comes from the inside first. And that's where you have to start. We help students build and shape their worldview based on those principles of good character. and therefore their leadership becomes their character. They're one and the same. We all know that the world is in dire need of high quality leadership. The recent history of the last few months has shown it more than ever. What we hope to do is to help students find within themselves the ability to become leaders of character, of competence, and of compassion, so they can affect change in their own lives and in the lives of others to make the world a better place. So that's a big, I know that sounds high and lofty, but that's really what we're shooting for here. We want students to find a place that they can make a difference and that they can take what they've learned here and go out into the world and help others. Now we do this by creating, our school is based, it has been for over 130 years, has been based on a really student-led or student-assisted leadership model. Now, up until now, that leadership model has primarily been a military leadership style. And by the way, we do this better than anybody else. We are one of the premier military academies in the country, and I would argue, of course, that we're probably the best military academy in the country. Our military academy is based on a JROTC, Junior Reserve Officer Training Curriculum, that comes from the Cadet Command, they call it, from the Army. And we're going to have you heard a lot about that explanation from Chief Schweiss, our Commandant of Cadets. So again, if you haven't gone back and seen Chief Schweiss's presentation, I encourage you to do that. My point here is our military academy is an outstanding framework. It has been and it continues to be an outstanding framework for the development of young people. It presents a series of positions and ranks that are formally defined, goals to attain, responsibilities to assume. It is a fairly strict chain of command type structure, which you'd expect from a military environment, and it's fairly top down. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and that's perfectly fine if the student wants to challenge themselves in that sort of environment. And we have had huge success with this. We've had cadets going to service academies to go on with careers in military, but we've also been able to help students who, I guess you'd call them regular students who just want to go on to college and live a good life. I can point you, and I'm sure there are many of you alumni that might be listening to this either now or in the future, who can attest to all of the qualities that you got from your experience at St. Johns Northwestern and have helped you in your life. We are going to continue to do that, and we're very passionate about that, as you can tell. Now, so what about this Leadership Academy thing? The Leadership Academy thing is based on this idea that the military lifestyle, the military education style, is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a great platform, but not all kids respond to it, as well as some others. The Leadership Academy is designed and characterized to provide a little bit more distributed, you could call it participatory, or maybe even a democratic style of leadership. We focus on a broad set of leadership skills that would probably be a little bit more indicative of what you would find in the business world, in industry, in government, maybe even in higher education, if you look at the way colleges and universities are set up. The students will still, in the Leadership Academy, will still have opportunities to lead in a variety of roles, in the residence halls, in the classrooms, in the athletic fields, and participate in a collective student government system or student government model in collaboration with the military academy. So there is a sense of the academy being one school. It's really two different experiences, and they're going to be working together, connected, to run the whole school. The Leadership Academy is based on the positions in the Leadership Academy are based on the concept of a prefect system. The prefect system is something that you're going to find in many boarding schools. I believe it comes from England originally. You find them on a lot of the East Coast prep schools and so forth. But really, all it is another framework, if you will, to provide positions of responsibility for students to aspire to. So they can act as mentors to other students, they can tutor other students, and they have one of the most important positions in the prefect system is working in the residence halls to help craft the experience and take care of essentially uh, a positive experience for all the other students. So student prefects who work in the resident halls will work very closely with our dean of students to help take care of, design, and provide a constructive and positive atmosphere in the resident halls. There will be other numerous opportunities in the prefect system to engage in committee membership, student governance models, the idea of running clubs and associations will all be there. So again, if I can just back up for a second there, if you start to see a little bit of difference, the military academy is very well defined and structured as far as, is it a squad leader? Are you going to be a platoon leader? Are you going to be a first captain? Are you going to be a some other in between piece, first sergeant, and so forth? Those job descriptions are all very well defined, and there's a very strong hierarchy of how to go up and down in those ranks. With the Leadership Academy, it's a little bit more dispersed. In other words, a student will learn how to go back and forth very fluidly between leading in one situation, following in another, supporting in another, and so forth. It's what we call distributed leadership. It's less of a hierarchical model, but we see it in business and industry and education and other things, other areas like that. Again, one is not better than the other. They're just two different ways of getting to the same set of qualities. And we believe by providing a high quality leadership academy in this distributed and prefect model, we are going to open our doors to those students who are looking for that type of a leadership model and may be not so inclined to go into the military model. Another thing I'll say at this point is that we expect that some kids might come to the Leadership Academy and be there for a little bit and experience that and take a look at the military academy and say, I think I'm ready for that challenge now, and I want to switch over and go to the military academy. We might have something that happens the other way around as well. If someone comes into the military academy and they start interacting in there and they think, well, it's just not going the way that I thought it would go, or I'm not seeing how this is going to be right for me, then we can sit down and have that conversation. Well, maybe the Leadership Academy is the right place for you. The idea of creating these two cooperative entities or these two cooperating experiences allows for many different kinds of leadership to be fostered, to be produced within the student, and really for the student to find within themselves which experience they want to have for themselves. And of course, all those discussions would be with the students, with the families, with the parents. We're not going to, have kids that are bouncing back and forth left and right. Those are serious decisions, which experience you want and what role you want to play. And we would sit down with you and come to a conclusion about which is best for you. Okay. So hopefully that gives a little bit of structure to the Leadership Academy and the prefect model and the bigger picture of how things might fit together. I do want to take a little time though, because there have been a lot of questions about it. I mentioned before that the military academy is focused on a JROTC curriculum that comes from the military. And of course, we do our own spin on it. We do their curriculum, but then we also add some other things in. And our Our JROTC folks, Colonel James Kevasek and Sergeant Mike Trioni, they're experts at that. They they help take that curriculum that they're given and they turn it into their own. And we have our own kind of brand of JROTC here. We have scored, by the way, we've had very high marks year after year when we get reviewed for our JROTC program. So once again, I think we do that better than anybody else out there. Let me talk a little bit about the leadership curriculum, though, for the Leadership Academy, because that's not quite as established. We're just developing that on our own. So when a student is in the Leadership Academy, they will also have to go through a curriculum of leadership development. And right now, it's conceived as a 4-year course model, so basically high school. But we're developing some pieces that are going to go into the middle school as well, 7th and 8th grade. But let me focus on the 4-year coursework and give you a picture of how that might look. The first course is called Foundations of Leadership. And this is intended for the incoming or new student. This will be the course that we run this coming year. Its title is exactly what it said. It's intended to give the student a foundation in leadership. We're going to look at various models of leadership theory. We're going to help the student begin to develop a personal definition of leadership for themselves. They're going to create a personal mission statement and something we call a book of leadership virtues, where they're going to look at they're going to profile different leaders and analyze what works and what doesn't work and so forth, basically exposing them to all the different kinds of leadership that may exist, so they can start that inside out look at what leadership means to themselves, and figuring out where they might fit in the bigger world of leadership. So we take a deep dive into character formation. We talk about values and building a principled lifestyle. We look at, again, how to lead yourself first. So again, it's that concept of inside out. We look at how you become personal discipline, personal mastery, and then we extend that into how to take that leadership of yourself and apply it to the leadership of teams, small groups. And then we actually get to the point where we talk about how that can be leading much larger, like an organization or a business and so forth. At least we start to touch on some of those topics. Other topics include things like leadership and culture, how groups and organizations work. For instance, we'll look at how leadership models that apply in business, in industry, in higher education. We'll touch on military as well in the Leadership Academy as a full survey, if you will, of all kinds of different leadership, right? And then another one. I'm sorry, I almost forgot. Is very important for this time of in the history of the world. Concepts of what's called adaptive leadership and change leadership, where students learn how to handle unpredictable events and handle the change process to adapt to those kinds of things. That's pretty heady stuff, but we start with it at the very first course, and we'll build on it as we go through the courses as well. The second year course is focused on learning, because this comes from the idea that in order to be a high quality leader, you have to have a disposition of continuous learning. You have to see yourself as always needing to learn more. So we try to build within the student the passion for learning, the curiosity for new knowledge and building new capacities and new strengths. Again, we do that from the inside out. We start with self first, and we look at how the student can learn better how they learn. They will create a plan for their own learning. They will also then transition to learning how other people learn. In other words, how can I help another person learn? How can I increase the capacity of someone else on my team or so forth to make the team more intelligent and better? And then all the way up to the concept of how organizations and larger groups actually learn to adapt and so forth. I mentioned that they'll develop a personal plan for their learning. The concepts of pursuit of excellence, pursuit of mastery and expertise will all be covered, and they'll begin to develop that attitude that I can achieve what I want to achieve through my own education, and I can become my own best teacher. And that's really the goal there, is to get them thinking about how do I learn best and how do I take agency in my own learning. Other topics in this second year class will include goal setting, strategic planning, scenario planning, systems thinking, case studies, and so forth of leadership challenges. So, very deep dive into the idea of how people learn, how groups learn, how teams learn, and so forth. The third year course is all about service. It really focuses on the purpose of leadership as service to others. We reinforce that leadership is a responsibility. Once you have that capacity within yourself to lead in whatever area that you feel that you want to lead in, your responsibility is to others in that area as well, to help uh, either obtain a goal or help others help you obtain the goal, and so forth. We learn about something called transformational leadership. The goal of transformational leadership is to instill leadership qualities in others. So it's a way of like paying forward or paying back, right? Once you become a leader yourself and you understand you've mastered your own ability to create a bright future for yourself. Now the idea is to give back and to help others find that within themselves as well. And we want our students to be able to do that, to go out into the world and help other people uh, achieve the goals that they're set for. They'll do things like they'll begin to state and to defend a statement of moral purpose for their leadership. They're going to examine issues of social justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. As you know, those topics right now are at the top of the headlines. We need leaders who are compassionate and have the emotional intelligence to handle big challenges like that. And we hope to foster those abilities within our students. We want to help our students develop the qualities of empathy and the ability to view things from different angles, from different perspectives. We do this through a process called humble inquiry, which is a process they will learn. And then they will construct a plan of continuous transformation for their own journey beyond high school and how they can continue to go further toward the idea of being a true servant leader in the world. Finally, the fourth year, the senior year, is a capstone project. And students will propose and develop and conduct an individual capstone service project, and they'll be under the guidance of an advisor for that. They're going to design the outcomes, they're going to display their outcomes and accomplishments for that project. Will be through a formal presentation at the end of the school year to both the school community and possibly the outside community as well. So it's really almost an independent study type of a thing, but it'll be guided by a mentor, an adult mentor, and the students will have the ability to really investigate where they feel their leadership has the most impact, and then actually do it. One of the big things about service is sometimes you just have to go and serve to figure out how you can best serve. So that's the curriculum that we're looking at for developing in the Leadership Academy. The first year course, Foundations, is already figured out, and all the other ones will evolve over time. But you can see, I hope you can see, that we have a very strong idea of how those courses are going to look and how they're going to run. All right, so I'll try to sum everything up. I've been going on for a while. I hope this information has been beneficial to you. I hope you have a good picture of what St. Johns Northwestern may have to offer for you. But I want to answer a couple of questions that, before I answer some questions that might be out there from the viewers. Really, who is St. Johns Northwestern designed for? What we're really looking for, both in the Military Academy and in the Leadership Academy, are students who are interested in making a difference both in their own lives and in other people's lives through their development of their intelligence, their talents, their passions, and ultimately through their leadership. We present an environment, a set of environments that have challenges that help you grow in those areas. So how do you decide whether you want to be in the military academy or the leadership academy? Well, I'll go back to some of my earlier comments. If you're looking for a challenge that's highly structured, if you're looking for an environment that is going to push you uh, to go through that step-by-step hierarchical process of achieving rank and responsibility, and especially if you're thinking about or interested in any kind of service academy past high school, some of you are looking at that, we're the place for you. That we have that, and we will do an amazing job with you, partner with you on that. If you're not looking for that highly structured or that kind of military feel to things, then I would encourage you to think about the Leadership Academy. The Leadership Academy will provide you with similar challenges and opportunities to grow and to lead, but not quite in as much a formal top-down hierarchical, chain of command way. A little bit more distributed, a little bit more like you can imagine how a government might work with different committees and so forth. And you have to go from you have to pivot from being a leader in one realm, like maybe you're heading up a committee, but then in another realm, you have to follow or be another team member or so forth, right? What we're really offering at St. Johns Northwestern, it's way more than just a high school education. We do that, and we'll help you get to the college that you want to get to. We'll help you try to realize what you want for yourself after high school, but we're doing more than that. We're offering a transformative experience. We're helping young people to learn about how to become leaders of their own future, how to discover their passions, and how to lead in those areas. And when you really look at it, by adding the Leadership Academy experience onto our already well-established military academy experience, what we're really doing is we're continuing for ourselves, for St. Johns Northwestern's pursuit of excellence and expertise to embrace and develop leadership in all kinds and all forms, to help young men and women become high-quality leaders of character that the world so desperately needs right now. And we think that there are many young people out here who are going to lead our future. That's what the future is, our young people. And St. John's Northwestern wants to be the place where you can come and learn how you can make a difference, both in your own life and in the bigger picture of the world as a whole, and make the world a better place. So that's my summary. I'll take a look and see if there are any questions out there that I can field from anyone. So Paul is going to help me.
We have one question from Pancho Lopez. How are you going to deal with the relation between students of different systems? Discipline and structure is completely different, is his comment on that.
Right. So a lot of that is, and I know for those of you, especially if you're an alumni and you kind of are familiar with the way that the discipline and so forth works in a military academy, or has worked in a military academy in your own personal experience. The idea there is, we're really changing the way the student cadet life is going to be formed here by changing the role of from commandant to the idea of having a commandant and a dean of students working together. It's really those two individuals who will work together to synergize, and I hope I'm not using that word. I hope that doesn't sound too high and mighty, but that the goal is to create a collective environment where those two things can coexist. And I will admit that will be one of our greatest challenges, but I also believe it will be one of our greatest successes. Students, the academy is very much a student-run academy. The students have a tremendous amount of responsibility when they come here to help the adults make this the best experience for every cadet and every student that comes here. And having those two groups work together to formulate and develop a discipline system and order system that is complementary to each other. One will affect the other, and we're going to come out with something. I know that you made the statement that those two things are very different. The idea is to create a third thing, something in the middle. We're not going to do the other way, the old way, and it's not going to be all the new way. We're going to create a combined system of melding those two things together that's going to work. And I know that might sound a little predictive, but because it's a student-run system or student-assisted system, it has to be, the students have to be part of that. So we're looking for the cadet leadership that returns for next year and the new uh, Leadership Academy students that are coming back. Some are going to transfer from the Military Academy over to the Leadership Academy for next year. We're going to immediately start during Leadership Cadre, this which is a it starts before school starts. It's a leadership training program. We're going to get all those leaders together, student leaders and our adult leaders, and we are going to formulate a plan. Of course, we'll have work done before then, but we're going to engage the students in helping formulate the way that the discipline structure and the student and cadet life structure will run. And the participatory nature of that is what we believe is going to be the key to its success. So I hope that addresses, I know that I went on a little bit on that, but I think you hit on a very good point. It is going to be a challenge, and we're up for it. We're ready for it, and we think that our students, both the cadets and the Leadership Academy students, have the ability to help us create a synergetic environment, so there will be a sense of connection between all of that. So that's my answer.
Aren't any other questions?
Okay. So there aren't any more questions at this time. I will invite you. We're going to continue to do these Friday Facebook Lives. Next Friday at noon is when Polly Maurer and Marla Collins will be talking together. Those two are amazing educators that work in our Totsky Learning Center. They help students that might need a little extra academic help. They also are they're experts at building strong relationships with those students and so forth, and addressing their specific needs. I'm sure it's going to be a great discussion. They have a wealth of experience and perspective to share with you. So I encourage you to tune in next Friday for Polly and Marla's discussion. And I think that's about all we have today. There's no other questions. So thank you so much. Again, if you're a prospective family or a prospective student or cadet, please call our admissions team and we will start the conversation and figure out how you and St. Johns Northwestern have a future together to change the future. All right. Thanks. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye.